Hello, guess who and guess what? Well, the guess who is me, Robbie Susan Chandler from Robbie Susan Cards and Crafts. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator who lives in Quincy, Florida, right outside Tallahassee, Florida. If you live in the area, I'd love for you to come over and attend my in-person classes that I hold every 2 weeks. I hold my classes on Sundays, Mondays, and on Thursdays, a 5 o'clock and a noon class. So today, let's see what the guess what is. I'm excited to share this card with you using the Peaceful View stamp. Now, this stamp's in our annual catalog, and there's a lot of possibilities with this stamp. But I want to show you the stamps that I teamed it up with today. Painted Stripe, and you're thinking, what in the world? How could those two work together? Well, this is how. Didn't that turn out to be a lovely card? If you look closely, you can kind of see the stripes in there. But this stamp I felt like really worked well with the stripes. So let me show you how I made this card. It's a lot of fun, a few steps to it, but let's get with it. Let me move all this out of the way. Okay, so first let's start with our card bases. Now this is Secret C, which is one of our new in colors, and this piece is 11 by 4 1/4, scored at 5 1/2. So that's our card base. And then right on top of this piece, I put a piece of Darling Duckling, another new in color, and this one's 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. And I wanted just a little bit, as you can see here, just a little bit of the Secret Sea showing, and then a little bit of the Darling Duckling showing around my focal point there. And then the focal point is going to be constructed on this basic white 4 by 5 1/4. You could also use watercolor paper for this, but I chose just to use the basic white. And then inside, which I didn't show you, is a piece of Very Vanilla, and I cut it 5 1/2 by 4 1/4, and then I cut it down with, let me pull it out, Texture Notes die. And this is a really cool set of dies. It has several different, I think it's like 9 different dies that go with it, and they all have a different design around the edge. Like here's one, a different design there, and here's another one. And like I said, there's a lot more of them. See how they're sandwiched. So that's my inside piece, so let me show you that. See how it makes an interesting design around the edge, and it's a wonderful way to celebrate you. It comes from the new paper tags stamp set. And my little mountain scene here is from Framed Scenes, and I used this one right here. And these are all stamped in Garden Green. So let's see how we're going to use this Painted Stripes stamp. So here's my stamp. Now I'm using my Stamparatus, which we don't sell anymore, but I would recommend that you probably might want to get a stamp positioner to do this. I could have done it with my large block, but I loaned it to someone and I don't have it. So I said, well, I'm just going to use this. In fact, you could put all this on here, and if you were using a block, just stamp it down on your paper. So let's see how we're going to put this ink on here. I want to get everything out of the way. All right, so I'm starting with my bottom 4 stripes with Garden Green. So see, here's my Garden Green, and we're going to use a dauber. So just pick up, look there, started out with ink on my finger already. So start out just dabbing it on there, and you want to put a good coat on it. You can swirl it, or just go back and forth. Like I said, you want a really good coat of the green on there. Now if you want it lighter, you know, don't put as much, but I kind of wanted my background pretty dark. Alright, so that's our bottom part, our grassy area. Let's set that over to the side. Then the next color I used is Poppy Parade, and I did 2 of the stripes with it. Just swirl it on here. Because you don't have to be real careful about getting it on the other stripes, but they're spaced far enough apart that it doesn't really seem to be a problem. All right, the next two stripes are with our new in color, Darling Duckling. Well, let's put some on these two. So we really wanted to go for this sunset effect. All right, here we go with Darling Duckling. And then for our last stripes at the top, we're going to use Misty Moonlight. Well, let's put those on here. Just swipe them across. Like I said, you want a pretty good coat so you have a nice colorful background. Okay, I think that'll work. Okay, so now that I've got that on there, what I'm going to do is spritz. I'm going to put a little water on this area over here. Make sure I've got it aimed the right direction. Alright, so I'm going to aim from up here. And I'm going to put a pretty good coating on there. Alright, then bring it over and just press it down. Let me move this in the camera. Press it down and let it sit for just a minute. Kind of let all the color soak in. And then, are you ready for the big reveal? Here we go. Alright, good job on this one. Alright, so I'm going to start at the bottom. You see all this white. I'm going to pick up some of this extra green over here and just swipe it back and forth. Now my advice is, don't get your paper too wet or it will start coming apart on you. See, you can just pick up this extra green that's in there between little, see here some over on the edge. And I'm going to come up to this orange like that. We're going to come back in a minute after we do the orange and do some more with that green. Alright, I think I've about got what I want here. Put some more right in there. So see, you can just pick it up over here, and if you need to, you could also pounce it over on your ink pad and see it would even be a little bit darker if you did that. Alright, I think I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, let's move to the Poppy Parade. Same thing, I'm going to pick up some of the ink over there, just start smearing it across here. And see, this fills in your stripes rather nicely, I think. Get a little bit more, let's get this side. Got this side darker because I started there. I'm going to pick a little bit up off my pad. Alright, I'm going to bring it up a little bit and bring the yellow down to it in a second. Okay, so there's our Poppy Parade. Now let's go to Darling Duckling. Let me find my yellow stripes. And then just start swiping across here. It's really fun to do this. And it's fun to watch it start filling in. I'm going to pick a little up there. Bring it in here. If you mix your colors together a little bit, then it doesn't look as stripy. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. Then I'm going to go to the Misty Moonlight, and let's just finish filling in up here with that. Let's start over here on this side. And we're going to get this pretty dark up here. This is our sky. I'm going to bring it down into the yellow a little bit. See how much fun this is? It's like coloring with a dopper. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm pretty happy with that. Alright. Now, I did one more thing to this. If you notice, in my sample, it's a little, kind of like a little tree line there. I just took my garden green sponge dauber and just kind of went in and made some little circle things to kind of give a, see, a little tree line effect. Do some a little bit taller, a little bit lower. Just kind of break that line there. See, look at that. Isn't that cool looking? Alright, now this piece you're going to find is very wet when you take it off. So it needs to dry a little bit. Now this one's not terribly wet, but you do need to let it dry. And let me move this out of the way. So I already have one I did earlier that's already dry right here. And see, there's my little tree line. So I'm going to use this one. And this is another one that you probably want to use your stamp positioner And my advice is I'm going to use Secret C to stamp the tree and all with. And you might want to ink it up each time before you use it. Alright, this is wanting to curl a little bit, but I try to use a sticky mat on my stamp positioners to hold them down, because when you've got a background stamp like this, there's really nowhere to put a magnet. Alright, I think that'll stick. Now, you really want to ink this up. I'm going to stick it back down again in just a second. And I re-inked this right before I started the video, so it's nice and juicy. Alright, you guys stick back down. Alright, you ready? Here we go. And just really mash good. Now, I found with my stamp, for some reason I had some areas that didn't want to stamp very well, so I just keep pushing on those spots. And you'll find if it's not really dark, you might want to do it again. Oh, that one turned out really good. See, we'll talk about a few areas here that aren't real dark. I think I'm going to do it just one more time and concentrate on those areas. But when I look on my stamp, I still see some ink there. But let's do it one more time, and then I'll show you how you can fix those lighter spots. Alright, pressing down good. I like the way that looked though. And that's the secret. If you only want to stamp one time, make sure you've got your pad really inking. Oh, see, that turned out great. I'm happy with that. But right here, if you want to get rid of those, just take the Secret C or a basic black. This is what I'm actually using as a basic black marker, and just kind of hit these spots. And you can fill in there. If those bother you. Now, some people it doesn't bother. They say that looks fine to them. Let's see, that just kind of solid those places up. Perfect. All right, let's take this out. This one's looking really good. I'm really happy with the way that one turned out. So I've got my Darling Duckling on this piece. So let's just adhere this piece down, and we'll have our card. It wasn't that easy, and it was fun. I tell you, my customers really enjoyed making this card because they like the painting and all. And my advice is, when you're putting the watercolor over on, with the dauber over on this piece, don't work it too hard, or your paper might start disintegrating. Alright, and sometimes when I've got paper that wants to curl a little bit, I'll put something heavy on it, so I'll probably do that in a minute. But I want to show you some other things you can do with this stamp. Isn't that beautiful? I just love the way that turned out. And see, you can see a little bit of striping in there, and then there's my little tree line. Everyone turns out different. Here's another one that I did. And see, that tree line looks entirely different from this tree line. So, like I said, each one will be different. Now, here's another idea. You can take a piece of paper like this, if you don't want to go to the trouble to do all this background. Piece of paper like this, and use Misty Moonlight. And when you stamp over it, you have this. Isn't that gorgeous? And here's another one. Take a piece of this paper and stamp with Mossy Meadow. See, there's the piece behind it. I think these sheets are called Thoughtful Journey. And isn't that gorgeous too? And then here's another one. I think this is Autumn Splenda, or Autumn, one of the autumn papers. And see, we just stamped in Cajun Craze on this one. So those are some other suggestions. So that's an introduction to the, and did I tell you the name of the stamp set? I don't know if I did. Peaceful View. And then the one that I used behind it is Painted Stripes. So I hope you like this card, and maybe you'll give it a try. I have links to all the supplies I use down below. I would appreciate if you'd like my video and subscribe to my channel. If you need a demonstrator, I'd love to be your demonstrator. And I'd love for you to join my team. So until next time, happy crafting.